Hello, hello, hello. Welcome all to the Sunday Five, the second week of our program, episode 2. And we have, as always, Aditya Sampath with me. Hi, Aditya.
Hi, Aditya Raghavan. Excited to be on the show.
Looking
Yeah, we
dapper,
got
man,
some
with
good
that,
things lined up.
yeah, with that cap. And yeah,
Yeah,
make me look
it's
old.
a
Yeah.
no, it's a bad hair day. So the
Yeah,
cap is on.
yeah, seriously. So again, we have like 5 topics as usual this week on cricket. So we'll be talking about Alex Hale's re-entry into the English side. He's not been picked into the 55-member squad, and we'll be discussing that. And we'll also talk about the India-Australia Test match series, where the great Gabba is making a comeback and Perth is losing out. We are also going to talk about the World Cup, the possibility of the T20 World Cup being shifted, and then IPL slotting into that. A lot of people have something to say about it, and some people say it's not the way to go, but some people say that's the way to go. And one more thing is Ben Stokes writing about Indian team's performance about India versus England match in 2019 World Cup, where he talks about Dhoni and Kohli not having intent. That's a big statement to
Zero
make.
intent.
Zero intent, yeah. I mean, trust Aditya to get the right words in. So, zero intent to champions like Dhoni and Kohli. So, I don't know, is he selling the book? Let's talk about that. And last thing is one more interesting discussion which has come up in Cricket Info's latest article about are we not going to see all format players henceforth in cricket? Are cricketers solely looking at T20 as an option? Or some players who are like just branded as chess players who are not able to break through into different formats? Is it getting too hectic? Are players not able to play all formats? Is that the end of all formats? So, uh, as I said, Aditya, let's start the discussion with Alex Hales.
Yeah.
Not getting into the 55 member squad. Forget 15. First,
Yeah.
okay, what are your thoughts on 55 member squads?
I was shocked. I was
Yeah.
literally shocked. We all know that Alex Hales has been banned because of recreational drug before the World Cup and all that. But I thought 1 year he was, given that ban. He had enough time to, think about it and all that. But the way Ian Morgan has come out and said we could not bridge the differences still and he could not win back our trust, I really feel bad for Alex Hales in one way. This guy is what, 31 now? Uh,
Yeah.
if Ian Morgan is going to hold his position as a captain for another year and he says, I don't trust this guy back, then almost his career is lost. These people don't play till 38, 39, right? Their career is like 34, 35 maximum. That's when they call it a day.
Yeah.
So if Alex Hales at 31 finds himself in this kind of a position, then it is going to be really difficult. That to 55-member squad he's omitted from a training camp or something like that.
Yeah.
That's very difficult. It's like for the entire upcoming season, you are going to pick the 15 or 11 from this pool of players. So if you're not there, then what kind of motivation he will have? And he knows his captain is particularly against him.
Yeah.
I can see shades of KP saga in this man. I'm really worried
Right.
looking at what Alex Hales is going through. What do you think?
Interesting how England handles its charismatic cricketers or cricketer who's not exactly fit the team, not like an Alistair Cook, not like the proper English
Yeah.
guy. Uh, I've seen KP suffer like this, but again, that was a different issue. But Alex Hales,
Mhm.
to be honest, is not completely, he's not in the right, to be honest, because to get yourself banned just before the World Cup after like what Ian Morgan is trying to build as a team culture. And you know how England has suffered in ODIs. I mean, they never won it, right? Being the inventors of the game and not winning a World Cup has been hurting them for such a long time. So Morgan has come in and he has brought in the fitness culture, the one-day culture, aggressive brand of cricket. So he is doing a lot and he's trying to get the right players and just before the World Cup to do something like that. And this is not the first time, right? Alex Hales has been caught with Ben Stokes also in the earlier incident where Ben Stokes
Mhm.
was caught in the pub or something, right? He had a fisticuff
Yeah.
on the road. So
Mhm.
that's kind of a, even though he was not convicted of that. Alex Hales was still there with Stokes, and it's seen
Bad
some sort of
reputation.
like a pattern of behavior. It's not something new. So I think so. When you see what Morgan has said, he said, "I'm not questioning the talent of Alex Hales. He's one of the best white ball cricketers in the country, but this is about trust." So I think issues like technique or form can be sorted out easily by going back to county cricket. But when you lose the trust of a group of players, and that to the captain, who's the forefront of all this, and that's it. That's pretty much, you lost the whole dressing room that way. And I understand that why English Cricket Board is doing this, and they're going by the captain. The captain's won the World Cup, and he has all the rights to say that. On the other hand, I would say to go so hard on culture is also a bit of a problem, uh, uh, because you really don't know when one of your top cricketers might go in the wrong. Then what do you do about it? So some people are talking about there are differential standards with Ben Stokes and Alex Hales, right? Nick Compton, ex-cricketer, has come and said that. So what about Ben Stokes? Like, and why are there differential standards then? What happened to your culture then? So, but Morgan will come back and say that was the start of this, right? When Stokes got into that brawl.
Yeah. But Stokes
yeah.
was not convicted again. This guy is proven to have taken those drugs, right? He was innocent at the end of the day for in Stokes' case.
Yeah, true. And also it's a bit convenient because Stokes is one of the most important, probably the most important player. And as the World Cup panned out, you saw that Stokes was the guy who made the difference. So probably not selecting him. I think some players do have some leeway, whether the cricketers agree or not. This happened with Australia also in 2003 when Shane Warne just got banned before the World Cup. And when he has finished that ban, he straight went back into the team. I mean, there's no one questioning Shane Warne. That's one of the greatest cricketers they have. And as you have pointed also before, right? Like Australia are match winners. They look to win matches. They really don't fall into the trap of this character game. Which is when you remember when Mickey Arthur and all those coaches in Australia, they tried to do some of these things like, about change of culture and all that. The Australian cricketers, ex-cricketers, they are very against it. They thought it's a simple game of bat and ball, just go and win it. So, and when Langer came out and said elite honesty and all that, like none of the Australian
no one agreed.
No one bought it. So it's a very different culture.
Shane Warne was totally against it.
Yeah, it's a very different. Of course, he'll be against it because you wouldn't have come back under that scheme, right? So yeah,
you wouldn't have ever played.
Yeah, but I guess it's a bit harsh on Hales, but I would still stand with Morgan right now on this because he has earned the right to make that call because he has won the World Cup and though some might argue about the differential standards, but I think Hales still needs to take some time on this and see how it goes.
See, if he's
what are your final thoughts on that
squad? If he's out of 55-member squad, what I think is this have every possibility of going down the same way KP Saga went. Cook was against KP. I mean, Strass was against KP. We all know that, but I don't see anything from Ashley Giles. He hasn't come out and said anything. He hasn't said whether he is with Morgan or he is trying to support Hales. He hasn't said anything, but ECB has taken an action of omitting him. Yeah. So KP had no way back. After a year or so, everyone knew it. Even though England were struggling, they were never going back to him. So he understood that he's not going to come back. Yeah. With Hales at 31, I fear the worst for him. Yeah. I feel if another year is going to go by and he's not going to be looked into, then his career might go for a toss. That's my only fear. That's my take.
Let's see where it goes. So the next one we are discussing is the India-Australia Test match schedule, which is released. People are very positive. I don't know how they're going to play cricket, but they released a big schedule. And I think to keep the broadcasters happy, they've done this. So one major thing is the traditional Gabba test has made a return. First test is going to be played in Gabba, I guess. And Perth is losing out this time compared to the last series. And last series, there was some complaint from the Australians saying that why are we not playing in Gabba? Gabba, they have never lost, right? So it's
32 years it's been.
Yeah. It's like a fortress. So now Gabba is making, and Perth is really unhappy because they've just rebuilt the stadium there and they spent a lot on it.
Right.
And they gave them this Afghanistan test, I guess, in return. Uh,
Yes, yes, yeah.
yeah, and
August
Kevin
month or
Roberts, I
something.
think he has ACA. He has come and said that we gave Perth last time the test matches and Gabba lost out on it. Now it's like I'm just doing the justice. Like this time we're shifting into
Yeah.
Gabba.
Mhm.
Any thoughts? And I think Gabba too again will really struggle. Indians have struggled generally, other than the one Ganguly innings from 144 where he saved us.
Mhm.
And this time it'll be a real challenge with Smith and Warner there and starting in
Yeah.
Gabba, right?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm afraid to say that Gaba is going to be the first game. It's going to be a very difficult test for us. And the way in which we have, tackled seam movement, I think Gaba has not just pace, it also has some seam movement, right? That's why it makes it very difficult for batters to play there. The way we have played in England, the way we have played in New Zealand,
Hmm.
we look like laughing stocks. When the ball starts to move, we just don't know what to do. I mean, Jasprit Bumrah in one of his interview has said recently that batsmen are complaining that the ball is seaming and swinging, and he's like, the ball is supposed to do that. So I'll tell you, he's actually speaking about batsmen who he has played with. It's not the opposition, I'm sure, right? So that
And he
really
was very
shows that
careful,
we,
right? He was
yeah, yeah,
mentioning not
he's,
our batsman. I'll just
yeah,
not
but
our batsman.
but it was very evident it was our batsmen
Yeah,
who are giving that complaints, right?
yeah,
So then there is a big problem of us not being able to tackle that kind of seam movement and stuff like that. I'm happy one way that Perth is not there, because we saw what we did in the new stadium, the second test match, right? We were kind of outplayed
yeah.
with a weaker Australian setup, right? So if we had both Gaba and Perth, I would say then this series is lost even before we started to play.
Hmm.
But in one way, I see it in a positive note. Maybe no one has toppled Australia in the last 32 years in Brisbane. The
Yeah,
last team which did it was the 1988 West Indies unit, right? They were the best 80s,
yeah,
90s West Indies team,
yeah.
right? After that 32 years, either it has been a game which has ended in draw, or Australia has gone on to win the games in Brisbane. If by any chance uh, the kind of fast bowling attack we have and all that, right? If Virat and Co is gonna go and topple them by some chance in Brisbane, then the series is going to be very interesting.
Hmm.
With Smith and Warner in place, if we topple them in Brisbane,
Yeah.
Australia will also, feel that there is a big scar for them losing in Brisbane. So that might make us all-time favorites to go on and win the series even against a full strength Australian team.
Hmm.
But if we capitulate badly in Brisbane, then how do we come back? If we go on to have innings defeat, or we were totally rolled over like what happened in New Zealand, then do we have what it takes to bounce back from there? And the crowd is not going to be there, but still in Australia, if you give Australia a sniff,
Yeah.
they are going to roll us over. They are not going to be pushovers. They don't give you breathing space to come back.
Yeah.
So this first game in Brisbane, I think, is going to decide a lot. If it's a close event contest and we end up losing it or we end up winning it, then it's different. But if the pendulum is going to swing one way, then the team is going to take all the momentum, and the rest of the series might, see that pattern. That's what I feel about the Gaba test. Getting back the rights to host the first test and what is going to hold for us.
Hmm.
What do you think?
That, yeah, we should also remember that we have a fantastic pace attack, so that's also there. And other than, but Australia has really come back in terms of batting now that they have like three solid batsmen. One is Warner, obviously, and then Smith, and then you have Labuschagne, who are like pretty good. Rest of them are bits and pieces, I would say.
Yeah.
They perform and they don't perform, but they now have a fantastic core of batting. But given that our bowling is also so strong, the pace bowling, I'm sure that they'll not be making it like a completely same friendly wicket also. So they'll make it like a
Mhm.
cricketing pitch. But again, the history is in their side, so we don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
And so one more interesting topic that's come up is the shifting of the T20 World Cup, and then in place of it, can IPL slot in? It's causing
Mhm.
big controversy across the cricketing world because anyway everyone hates IPL. That's one reason, and yeah, anyone who makes money they hate it. So that's there. So and uh, being there's always this debate about national versus league cricket. Are we losing out national cricket? The importance is going off, and playing in those months in the IPL tournament, that kind of disrupts the Australian schedule also, which has never happened, and they don't traditionally like to disrupt their schedule. So there are some voices against it, but any one of the cricketers, the current cricketers, they seem to be in favor of it. Like Pat Cummins has come and said that he wouldn't mind playing the IPL, and recently Steve Smith has come up and said the same thing. So your thoughts on that?
I think, yeah, a person who was not even part of the auction, Mitchell Stark, he feels that he wants to play IPL if he's allowed to be traded into any of the teams, right? So I think Australia were very cautious not to burn out their players before leading into the T20 World Cup. Of course, that is the only World Cup they don't have with them. So
Yeah.
they want to win this playing in their own backyard. I understand why they were not allowing all the players. See, there are two factors I would say. One of the reasons why I am with ICC if they take a decision to say we don't play this World Cup for the right reasons, for the safety of players and all that, it is there. But more than that, I really don't think a T20 World Cup, it's like a festival, right? ICC and all the cricketing boards are trying to project this World Cup to the non-cricketing playing nation to show that cricket is also a game where you can have fun. It is not slow moving as you think. People come here and it's like a party, right? You have 3 hours of good entertainment. That's what we are trying to showcase. What is the point of having a World Cup without fans? There is no way we are going to allow crowd to enter the stadium. That's not going to happen in this year. It's like it's ruled out, right? So why play a T20 World Cup without a crowd? There is no point of doing it. So if I look at it from that point of view, then I think it shouldn't happen. One, and for players to come out and say, hey, if this is not going to happen, then I'm fine to play IPL. They are getting big paychecks, and I'm sure that they are going to be happy to get that. They deserve it. There is nothing like, hey, they are getting it, and so I'm feeling jealous of them. It's not like that. They deserve it, and it's only right for them to come out and say, if there is no World Cup, if you can, slot in IPL, then I'm fine. I'm ready to come and play it. They also miss the game, and they also, want to be part of a big tournament, and they get good amount of money. So having IPL there is not the worst decision. As a fan, even I will be excited, right? It's been 4 or 5 months we are deprived of action. Right? If I'm not going to end up watching a World Cup for the right reasons, then I'm excited to watch IPL. It's not just about watching those 3 hours. We are going to talk. We love to talk about the sport. We love to discuss about the sport. And I'll tell you, the worst thing I do miss every morning is I don't have a news. I don't have anything in sports world to see. Every day morning, my routine was to go to Cricinfo, go to Cricbuzz, and maybe like little bit on football. That was giving me an adrenaline rush. Oh, something is going to be there today.
Yeah,
something is going to happen.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. So that is not there. So if I'm going to get IPL, then I'm excited to watch IPL with crowd, without crowd. That's fine for me. So I'm totally in line with ICC in this decision. What do you think? Do you differ in this?
No, also considering how much economically these cricket boards have suffered. So I see the logic behind trying to do these tournaments, regardless of crowds or not, still, because broadcasters and TV rights owners will be still, honoring their contracts. So I see the reason behind it, but having a world tournament like that and with the national teams without a crowd does look very odd. And say IPL with regard to paychecks makes sense because ACB is already suffering with the lot of losses and all that. These contracts are still there, but whether they'll be able to honor the contract, what if this extends for a long time, like 1 year or 2 years, what happens then? So players now trying to get as much as they can and with regards to the IPL paychecks makes sense. Like they're just trying to secure their future because without there is no clear understanding on when the sport is going to return, and not every cricketer is like a star cricketer, so they all depend on all these things. They all depend on these leagues. So I see it like more of an economic decision, but interesting times. So, but whatever you're going to do now will have repercussions. Like once the COVID-19 is over, you will remember what you chose and the moment it crisis. What did you choose? Or national cricket or league cricket? And that debate will open up a bit later. In a moment of crisis, that players chose IPL or T20 World Cup, that will be remembered. So that will change the game and how we approach the game going forward. And the fourth news which we are going to discuss is Ben Stokes, who's slowly becoming the new Shane Warne of this 21st century. So he's written a book called On Fire, I guess, yeah, On Fire, and on that he has spoken about India versus England 2019 match, where he spoke about Dhoni and Kohli not having intent, and as you said, zero intent on winning the match. And I think most of these players need Indians to sell these books, right? When you say Dhoni and Kohli, Twitter will go on fire.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, he would have written about so many other things, but only this news comes out, and it went on fire. We are talking about it, right? So it worked. So what are your thoughts? I mean, to say someone like, I mean, Kohli, if not for intent, what is Kohli is all about? Kohli is like, his whole body is about intent. His whole life is about intent. And someone like Dhoni, who's a champion, who's won every trophy under the sun, who's known to just win, is a winner, right? And Stokes kind of won a World Cup by tying the game and then hit that 5 runs by sliding down, and suddenly Stokes is talking about intent, aggression, and all that. So, your thoughts on that? And there's also a possibility of lost in translation, because the way English and Australians speak might sound a bit more harsh. So, yeah, what are your thoughts? Are we overreacting, or should we just ignore?
I see. When I looked at the game, I looked at it live, not in the stadium, of course, in a screening place. There are a lot of fans out there, right? We all felt India were not going for a win, right? But they were not going for a win, not because they didn't want Pakistan in or something like that. That is the kind of debate that started. Yeah. That's the controversy that is, it is like every Pakistani ex-legend is coming out and now saying, oh, no, Dhoni did not play. I knew because he didn't want Pakistan to come in, right? That is what they understood from whatever Stokes has written, right? But when we looked at the game, I found out that we are not going for a win, but not for that reason. We did not want a bad hit in our net run rate. We knew this target is like a mountain to climb. If we are going to go hard, and Kohli really knows that if him and Rohit Sharma are going to get out early, this is going to be catastrophic. We are going to lose this with a big margin. We don't have that muscle in the middle order. It's a very well known fact. So they were taking their time to ensure that we get as close as possible to the target. Then, if there is a possibility, then let's take this game deep to try and win it. That's the kind of calculation I felt what they were doing. They know that they cannot topple this England team, going toe to toe. They really knew that. So that is the kind of cautious effort they were taking. But when we were 11 overs with 110 something to score, yes, when you look at it, you would say, I don't think Dhoni had that intent. You would say, yes, Dhoni didn't go for it. But I will put it in a different perspective. I don't think the current version of Dhoni could do that. Right? We are not looking at the Dhoni who was a 30, 32, 33. We are looking at a warrior who is aged, who is 38. He is in this team for his wicket-keeping skills, for his leadership skills, not for the hard-hitting batsman who he was once. So,
and I think his role also changed, the kind of a consolidator and trying to, anchor the chase. And he was expecting someone like Pandya or Jadeja to take those reins, which they didn't take, and which makes Dhoni look like a failure, but which is not the case. Probably he transformed into something what Steve Waugh used to do in one-day cricket, like around 99 World Cup. Right? He was the guy who's going to be there in the middle and be there till the end of the game, hit 1 or 2 shots, and then be the consolidator. I'm sure that was the thought process behind it. And just that we didn't have those lower order batsmen who didn't kick, and they didn't really take up that mantle.
Right.
Which makes him look like.
I thought I would question more into Kedar Jadhav, right? I kind of felt like he was not able to do anything, right? See, on one hand, we understand what Dhoni is trying to do, but Kedar could have, pressed on the accelerator. He could have tried something. But when he started to defend, he started to nudge for singles and doubles with, the run rate going above 10. That's when I really felt like, okay, then, maybe we felt like we are not going to win this game. Maybe Kedar Jadhav felt like he couldn't take the attack.
Yeah, he was neither the consolidator or the accelerator.
He thought, okay, Yes.
Yeah,
Maybe when we came to like 9 overs, 8 overs, I would agree with Ben Stokes. I think we did not go for the win because we knew it has gone beyond our reach, right?
yeah,
So I would say Ben Stokes is a very clever player, and now he is proving to be a fantastic author, right?
yeah,
I'm sure he's going to have a very good career once he decides to move away from cricket because the
yeah,
words he has put in, zero intent to win the game.
yeah,
He didn't say that they were doing it for net run rate, they're doing X, Y, Z. He just kept it open.
yeah. And I
That
don't
page of
think,
this book.
yeah, I don't think he needed to say that anyway, because it's not you ended up winning the game, and to imply something like that, and already there is a burning controversy on these two countries. That's a bit
Mm.
amateur, I would say, and also a bit disrespectful. I mean, players like Dhoni and Kohli, you think after years of cricket they're going to play to not win is something ridiculous to say. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah, but he says I did not say India voluntarily lost that or India did it on purpose. He says I saw that they did not have intent, and he is giving a different viewpoint of the way in which he thought. I
Yeah.
don't know. There is no viewpoint he has explained,
No, I think it's
but
a
everyone
very carefully planned strategy to sell his book, and which
exactly
has worked wonders, and it has reached till us.
wonders.
So yeah. So anyway, so I mean, job done. So his goal has been
Job done.
reached.
Successful author. Yes.
Seriously, yeah, yeah. And the last topic is something interesting which we read about in Cricket Info and on Cricket Monthly, which is about, are we losing the all format cricketer in the future, for the future and the present? Are cricketers now picking and choosing formats based on their convenience and their abilities? And is there enough energy and intent, again the word intent, on players today uh, to play all formats, to commit themselves to the game like that, like how past cricketers used to do? We have seen examples of this before, but is it now becoming like a larger trend, and it's like a larger strategy of players who are just looking to play one format? Any thoughts on that?
I will tell you something. Maybe I will ask you a question. Do you really think there could be, so many number of players who could play all three formats? If I look at Adil Rashid, I would pray if I'm an England fan that he should not play Test cricket, right?
Mm.
For two reasons. One, he's not the best in Test cricket. Two, if he ends up trying to do something, trying to change his action or trying to change the way he releases the ball, whatever it might be, and his efficiency is lost in white ball cricket. Do I want that? As a fan, I wouldn't want that. As a player, he wouldn't want that. So if you can read a player and if the player can really understand whether he can be a all three format player, then yes, because T20 has changed so much in cricket. Right before it was one day game which was slow paced. It was not like what we have today, right? So Test cricket and one day cricket, even though there were differences, it wasn't the same like what it is today in this T20 era. So my thought would be like if a player is capable, he feels he's capable at a very young age, he should proceed to play all three formats. If not, a wise call would be to say, right, I'm good at these two formats, or maybe I'm good at only one format. If you are a good T20 player, I can assure you, if you are not contracted under BCCI, the world is wide open,
Hmm.
right? You are going to make big bucks if you are a good T20 player, right? But if you are not, then you should understand that either you should choose Test and ODI cricket and excel in one. If they don't end up making this and saying, I'm going to be an all three format player, we can use classical examples of Shikhar Dhawan,
Hmm.
Ajinkya Rahane, right? Even a bowler like Umesh Yadav, I
Yeah.
would never allow him to touch white ball cricket ever again because this guy cannot think, this guy cannot sulk in pressure. He's not a clever enough bowler, but he is a bowler who has good pace. He's a good athlete and he can bowl you tons of overs. Make him a very good red ball bowler. Like, see, James Anderson and Stuart Broad understood after 2015, we don't have anything to do with white ball cricket. They made peace with themselves. They never
Hmm.
said, hey, I'm Anderson, right? I have a decent enough one day record. They understood. ECB gave them a very clear picture. I think they are doing a good job, right?
Yeah.
They are telling Adil Rashid, if you don't want red ball cricket, stay away. Fine, we are not going to force you. Moeen Ali says, no, I don't want to play Test cricket. I don't feel confident. Okay, but you are still a vital cog of our, white ball cricket.
Hmm.
But I don't think that is the case with all the other boards across the globe.
Yeah. I think
They do.
yeah, one of the key
Yeah.
reasons why England succeeded in this World Cup and in recent times is they now understood that they have to demarcate teams between different formats. Like I remember England used to play the same squad across all formats, right? And Alistair Cook used to open in one-day matches, and I used to think, what's happening here, right? And all sorts of things. He may or may not have a decent record, but that's not a way to go. I think we really have to understand that cricket has changed a lot, and we are playing far more matches, and each one requires a different skill set. And making the transition is not as easy as you're not playing EA cricket, right? So this is real thing happening. See how Jason Roy suffered versus Australia in the Test series. He looked like a
beautiful example.
He looked like a clueless cricketer. He looked like someone who's played in the terrace. But when it comes to white ball, he was smashing it all parts, right? The same bowlers, the same batsmen, the same country, but everything changed. The format is very important. I think we did this mistake of playing all players in all formats. Now people have become far more clever. Now they understand that each is a different skill set. But the only problem I have with this is when you are deciding to do just one format and one or two formats, and you're losing out on formats. Now with all the T20 leagues and the big bucks there, cricketers coming from now will look at, okay, now I have to make a choice between formats. Most of them will go for the formats which pays them big bucks, right? Like, how many of you will have someone like a Cheteshwar Pujara who has a fantastic contract with BCCI? So he's able to, have a lifestyle on par with his other cricketers. But Pujara knows that while he is, in the off season, his fellow cricketers, the same players in the dressing room, far less talented than him, are making huge sums of money in IPL. So, but he is a bit of an old school cricketer. He's able to demarcate and say, I'm a test player. I wanted to play this and I have a fantastic
Rahane couldn't do it.
Rahane got confused between this, right? And so that's the only fear I have on the all format thing, that henceforth cricketers who are coming up, and if they have to pick formats, I don't think they're going to pick test cricket unless it's been emphasized by the Indian cricket team or by the board you have to play a certain number of test matches to get an IPL contract. If something radical like that happens, I don't think that's going to happen. So either we have to reduce the number of matches we are playing, the schedule has to be lightened for players to play all formats. And that's one thing. There are two parts. One is the skill set and one is the ability and the technique and the skill set, right? So, so we have to, there are two things to do. One is to understand, clearly groom cricketers for different formats and make it clear to them, and then give them a proper financial package so that they don't feel that loss of not playing another format. That's what BCCI is doing, that even though Pujara just plays one format, he's in the top contract. They respect that. So that's the respect both are showing. So unless that happens, my only fear is players choosing these T20 leagues over Test cricket, because then you're saying I'm playing 50 matches a year, I have to choose only this, then chances of them going to Test cricket is bleak.
But I will tell you this, BCCI can do it. Probably Cricket Australia can do it. ECB can do it.
Yeah.
But who else? Say, for example, if it's a West Indies cricket board, or even we can take Sri Lankan cricket board, right? A young player who is 13, 14-year-old, coming into the setup, maybe he's coming into the under 15 squad of national team or something like that. You really see him as a potential candidate for, like a test cricketer, right? How do you convince him? Your board does not have the financial muscle to say, hey, play test cricket, we are going to take care of you. Right? This guy is going to see everyone around him.
Yeah.
Right? He's going to see the current cricketers who are playing in different leagues. He's going to, look over his shoulder and say, hey, few people are, good at tonking balls. And, the message is that this guy is going to get a contract, maybe CPL or maybe, the kind of domestic things they have inside West Indies or something, but he will be left out. If, West Indies Cricket Board is not going to say, I can take care of you, then what this person will think, okay, then maybe I need to change my game play or game style to this day and age. If not, I'm going to become extinct. No one is going to look at me. Right? So he ends up trying to do something else. Maybe his career goes for a toss because he couldn't replicate it, or he does some okay job, like a Darren Bravo, a fantastic test player he should have become, but he ended up playing so many CPL games, etc., where I never felt this guy is capable of playing T20 cricket, right? So
and that in turn affects his test game, and he loses form there. Yeah,
absolutely, right. If it happens for young players, as you said, now they are in a real precarious situation. either they should choose one format, stick with it, and they should accept for different cricket boards, this is what financially they will do. Or everyone will end up going towards T20 league. It will not happen in India. It will happen in all the other boards that are not financially able to support their players. That's gonna be there.
Sure. Anyway, let's see. So those are the 5 topics we have discussed today, and hope you guys have liked it. 5 interesting topics. Even though cricket is not being played, there are so many interesting things happening in the world of cricket. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and also please watch our another show which we have started called Fan Memories, where we talked to Rahul Sadagopan on the 2001 Kolkata Test match. We are really reliving all these great cricketing memories on how fans become the cricket fans they are, and the great matches that has been played throughout the history. And so do subscribe to our channel, do like this video if you like it, and do suggest us topics which you want us to discuss on, and let us know how you what you thought about this episode. And thank you for joining us.
I will tell you, man. I will tell you, man, that fan memory video was fantastic. I will really vouch everyone to look at it. We will put this on the description, and also on the end card you will get that link. It's really fantastic.
We'll have a link of the fan memories here.
Fantastic, yeah.
Please listen to it, because Rahul was at the stadium for 5 days, so he was a fan who attended the match right there, and he has relived that, and that's such a great test match to relive, right? So it's one of the historic ones. So you guys watch that also, and thank you for supporting us. Keep watching our programs, and thank you, Aditya, for joining me today. It was interesting as always, and let's close it up for today. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Bye-bye.